Alright, you guys, rolling out in the 2014 Jeep Wrangler Sport. So the first thing you notice in this car is how high up you are. Honestly, it's a really big car, and I mean, it's not huge, it's no truck or anything like that, but it is a pretty big car, and especially with the 2-inch lift and stuff like that, and the bigger mud wheels or mud tires and stuff like that, it's definitely a bigger car. So if you came here looking for a muscle car review or a sports car review, you might have come to the wrong place. Honestly, this car is no speed demon. It's a really slow car, honestly, and I know it's fitting this stereotype that Jeeps are slow, but I mean, it's a stereotype for a reason. It's a very slow car. It is a 3.6 liter V6, and it's making about 285 horsepower and somewhere around 260 for torque, I believe. And you know, that is a decent amount of torque and horsepower, but you have to remember this is an off-road type vehicle, and it's really not meant for going fast. And the other thing is, this car weighs more than 4,000 pounds. To put that in perspective, the last car I reviewed, a 2003 Mustang Mach 1, weighs about 3,300 pounds. So it's like 4,200 pounds. So that's a, what, 900 pound difference, which when it makes less horsepower than the Mustang and it weighs 900 pounds more, almost 1,000 pounds more, you're definitely going to feel that weight, and it's not going to be as fast. So this car has the 5-speed automatic transmission. I know it's an automatic. A lot of Jeep fans like the manual, but basically it does have a manual feature where you can put this knob down here, your shifter thing, where you put it in park, reverse, neutral, and drive. You can put it in drive, and then if I hit it over here, now I'm in 3rd gear, I can put it up a gear, and then to put it back, you simply put it into neutral and back into drive. It's like a lot of other cars, nothing special there, especially for a Jeep. It's no like speedy shifting, or there's no sport mode or anything like that. But again, this is an off-road built vehicle. It's a machine. It's for off-road, and it's definitely not going to fit your needs if you want to have a sporty car. Another big thing, guys, that I definitely need to mention is the ride quality. So again, going back to what I was saying, I keep going back on this. It is an off-road vehicle, so you can expect it to have amazing quality. And honestly, it's not unbearable, the ride quality, but it's definitely not good. You know, you can't expect much from it because of what I said, but when you ride, you probably can feel or see the camera shaking throughout these bumps. And when I hit a bump, if there's a big bump, I mean, you're flying, man. I mean, not literally, of course, but you're gonna go up and it's shaking your seat and stuff like that. Or I definitely would not recommend this car for highway driving. It's just, its top speed, I don't even know, is probably like 95 miles an hour. So I mean, it can drive on the highway, but you're gonna be flying all over the place, especially on a bumpy road. And yeah, the ride quality is not good, but then leading on into the off-road aspect of things, it's going to be amazing, right? It's a Jeep. This car has the mud tires. It has a 2-inch lift. It has the new wheels, which obviously don't help for off-roading, but they just make it look cooler. But yeah, it's an amazing machine for off-roading. I haven't done too much off-roading myself. This is more of a street review, and this is my daily driver. So I'm going to try to keep this as like as much as I can with outside perspective. But for off-roading, I haven't done much. This is more of a street review, but it's good, right? We've done a little off-roading at a hill by my house, and it's a machine. Like, it is like nothing else you've ever ridden in, and it's really good for off-roading. All right, guys, so in terms of fuel economy for this car, again, it's not great. I don't mean to hate on this car. This is an amazing car for a lot of reasons, which I will start getting into in a second. But fuel economy is pretty bad. I mean, I can hit menu right here, and I'm averaging 12.7. This is city driving, of course. On the highway, I'd imagine it would maybe get somewhere around 20. But for city driving, yeah, I'm averaging 12.7. I would say I'm a bit of a lead foot, you know. So I bet you could get this thing maybe up to 14 or 15 if you really didn't get on it. But yeah, it's not too good. You do use regular fuel, and then I mean, gas is cheap right now, man. Gas is $1.60. I just put some gas in, so it's cheap. I mean, but still, it sucks having to go to the pump all the time. I would say I fill up every maybe 5 days in this thing, which is a lot compared to like my mom's Volkswagen, which I fill up like every freaking 3 weeks. So it's definitely not good for fuel, but what can you expect? Another thing that you guys may be wondering about is the 4-wheel drive capabilities, which they're amazing. Okay, so this car in the snow, which is winter right now in Illinois, and this car in the snow is fantastic. Like, if you have it in 2-wheel drive, it's pretty much like any other car, especially with these mud tires, which don't help really. You would think they would help, but the mud tires actually don't really help. But when you're in the snow and you put this thing in 4-wheel drive, it's like you're not even in snow. Like, you don't even notice it. It is a great system, man. It works really well, and yeah, you don't even notice the snow. All right, so getting into the pros about this car, the first one is that you can take the top off. This thing is pretty much like a manual convertible, if that's what you could call it. I mean, you can't really press a button and the whole top goes back, it is a process taking the top off, but when you do, it's amazing. Like in the summer, when it's 80 degrees, I'm rocking the top off on this thing. It's an absolutely amazing experience. You can take the top off right here and in the back, and then the whole back part, and you can take the doors off too, which I forgot to mention, as you guys probably know. So you can take literally everything off, and it feels like you're not even in a car. Like it feels like you're on a roller coaster, because this thing, once it has everything off, it does not feel like you're trapped inside a car. It feels like you're literally, as I said, just on a roller coaster. Another thing that's great about this car is the big trunk. So this car has a ton of trunk space, as you guys see, and it's a ton of space. You know, there's not much to say about that, but it's really convenient having all that space in the back. And yeah. This car also really looks cool, especially, I mean, out of the factory, these things look cool. You know, it's a Jeep, it's iconic, people love it. But especially with this 2-inch lift, it looks a little bigger and meatier. And then when it has those meaty tires on it, and it's got that big old, the big old wheels, the black wheels, the XD series rims, and it looks great. It's a really cool thing. A lot of people turn their head, or I get compliments in this car all the time. People are always going up to me and saying, that's a really cool Jeep, or where'd you get those wheels, or are those tires good in the mud? And honestly, I can't answer that one really, but yeah, it looks great. And then finally, the biggest thing that attracts most of the people that buy these cars to it, this isn't the reason my dad bought this car, but this is the biggest determining factor for a lot of people, is its off-road capabilities. As I said before, it's amazing. These are pretty much some of the best off-road vehicles that you can buy, just stock how they are. Like this is the Sport Edition, so it's heavily focused on off-road, but if you get the Rubicon, then you're more focused on off-road than this one. And then if you get the Sahara, it's more focused on luxury. So this is like the base model, the sport model, but it's a beast on the off-road. So for cons, guys, as I said before, the suspension is really stiff. You're gonna be feeling all the bumps that you go over. But in terms of real cons, one thing is the noise. So this is attributed also to the tires that we have on this car, because they're so meaty, and like when you come to a stop, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but like we roll to a stop, like you really feel, and I'm sorry, I'm just turning around here, but you really feel it. Like when you're rolling to a stop, you feel the tires bumping up and down, and these are real meaty, muddy tires, or mud tires. Ooh, another Jeep just passed me, a Sahara. But yeah, and then the other thing that is bad, which again, you have to expect this when you're buying a Jeep, is the handling. Okay, so this car is extremely top heavy. I mean, it literally warns you up here that if you're driving with this car and you make a hard turn, there's a risk of it flipping. Like if you were in a Mustang or a Camaro and you did that, you throw a drift, right? In this car, if you did that, the whole thing would probably flip. It's very top heavy, and even though there's not much weight at the top, the center of gravity is just higher, and it feels like when you turn, like when you go like back and forth, it just feels really heavy on the top. And when you're cornering, which I know it sounds funny, cornering in a Jeep, but again, when you're going around a corner hard or something like that, you're really going to feel the weight. In terms of the interior of this car, guys, it's pretty nice. For a base model, the sport model, which the Sahara, again, as I said, is the nicer model, the sport model is pretty freaking nice. It's got a nice radio system. It's got a lot of glove space, like the glove compartment's big, the center console's big. The trunk, as I said, is huge, or not the trunk, but the cargo space, I guess you could say. The seats are cloth, so they're not leather in the sport one, but they're really nice seats. They hold you in well, and they're very comfortable. They're very like mushy, I guess you could say, or soft. The leather is real soft. It's a nice touch, and then when you sit in them, you kind of sink into them, and you feel nice. It really helps actually with the ride quality, because if you were in a real stiff leather seat, it might not feel as nice as it would in these seats, honestly. Another thing is the gauges. I actually really like the gauges in this car. I don't know what it is about them, but something I think it looks amazing. It's just the font, I guess, and how the letters are placed. The gauges look real nice. And then you do have a couple buttons on the steering wheel, menu, like the basic stuff, like you have cruise control, you have the basic stuff, but other than that, it's a really basic system. Even the center infotainment system is really basic. And then finally, the steering wheel, I love in this car. The texture it's made out of is so nice to touch in your hands, and that sounds a little weird, but it's just a really nice touch. Like in cars I've driven that have the same leather wrap, it's just, or whatever, I think this is leather, it's a certain type of it. Other cars I've driven just don't feel as nice. It's something about this, it just feels really nice in your hand. You feel like when you have to grip it, you have it. Like when you need grip, you have it, and when you don't, you can just let it roll through your hands, and it's a really, honestly, cool texture. One last thing I forgot to mention, guys, is the radio system, and honestly, I'm very pleased by it. Out of all the cars that I've ever driven in, and this may be biased because this is my daily driver, I honestly think this radio is the best. I wish I could turn it on, but I don't want to get a copyright. But yeah, the radio sounds great. Alright guys, so I think that pretty much wraps up the review on the 2014 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sport. That's a mouthful. But basically, yeah, that is pretty much the review. I wish I could do some off-roading or something, but it is winter here, and there's really not many places to go to off-road. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the review. If you want more reviews, or if you want to recommend a car for me to review, please leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to review it if I can get my hands on it. And yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Again, please subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys later. Peace.